Hello, and welcome to the LearnStorm Growth Mindset live stream. I'm Rachel, a Senior Communications Manager at Khan Academy, and I am so excited to welcome you to the Khan Academy offices here in sunny California. Today's live stream is going to be about 60 minutes, and we're going to split it up into two parts. Up first, we're going to cover the live stream LearnStorm program, what it's all about and what it can do for your classroom. Next, we'll turn our attention to our fabulous panel to answer your questions about growth mindset. But first, a few tips. If you have any questions about growth mindset or LearnStorm, please type your questions and comments, and our helpful moderators will answer your questions. For those who are trying to view by YouTube, I'm really sorry. We're having some technical problems, so we're just on Facebook for the moment. But our questions might be asked to our panel later on. I also very much recommend that you maximize your screen. We'll be going through a few of the growth mindset activities, and you'll definitely want to see them in full effect. And lastly, if you can't stay for the full live stream, we'll miss you, but don't worry, we'll record it and we'll send out the recording later on this week. I have three amazing guests with me today that I'll introduce in just a few moments, but first let me share with you a little about LearnStorm. LearnStorm is Khan Academy's free back-to-school program that gives teachers a powerful way to jumpstart the school year. By combining mindset activities and skills practice across subjects, LearnStorm motivates classrooms and builds students' confidence. And yes, you can still sign up for LearnStorm through October, so hop to it if you haven't already. There's also some time to win some awesome prizes. This year, all across the U.S., teachers and their students can sign up for LearnStorm. LearnStorm and Khan Academy are free and always will be. LearnStorm is possible thanks to the awesome support of MathWorks. So thank you, MathWorks. LearnStorm can be implemented flexibly by teachers as in-class practice, for homework, or for both. But in order to get the most out of LearnStorm, please follow these steps. 1, sign up and assign. 2, master skills. 3, build mindsets. And 4, celebrate progress. Of course, in order to even participate, you must sign up for Khan Academy by going to khanacademy.org and enroll in LearnStorm from your coach dashboard. Once you have your account all set up with your class and students, teachers can assign all the content available on Khan Academy, including grammar, history, biology, not just math. In addition to core K-12 subjects, LearnStorm includes access to Khan AP lessons created by former AP teachers and AP exam reviewers, covering subjects like AP Physics, AP Calculus, AP Government and Politics, and more. And then don't forget to enroll your class in LearnStorm. Next, it's time for you, your students, to master skills. Regardless of the way your teachers decide to implement LearnStorm, teachers can track student participation, get real-time insights, and when someone is struggling. This enables teachers to spend more time differentiating instruction and providing targeted help with learners of all levels. This picture is of Ms. Cotto of Watsonville, California. She participated in LearnStorm last year, and you can hear all about her experience on our website at learnstorm.khanacademy.org. Thirdly, the topic of the hour, growth mindset. This year, based on feedback from teachers who used activities last year, we have not one, but 2 curriculums based on age group. In the elementary middle school curriculum, students have 7 activities to learn alongside this brain character, Thinky Pinky, and his friends. We'll scroll through one of these awesome activities now, which were created in partnership with PERTS, a Stanford Research Center. Each activity has articles, videos, and these are essential reflection points where students can really take a moment to internalize and apply these concepts to their lives. In the high school curriculum, students have new lessons on belonging and will learn through testimonials and case studies. We also have focus on highlighting people from many different backgrounds and diverse experiences so students can learn from a full spectrum of experiences. We've also made a comprehensive teacher guide and lesson plans that include bell ringers, class discussions, sample communications to parents. You can assign all of these growth mindset activities by clicking Assign in the upper right-hand corner. And as students complete activities, they develop learning strategies and build confidence to overcome challenges in the classroom and beyond. The growth mindset activities are a chance for you to make a lasting change in students' lives and as they continue into adulthood, which is so very important. Lastly, the cherry on the sundae, celebrating. The biggest part of LearnStorm, which has led to many classroom celebrations, is the LearnStorm Tracker. Here's how it works. Access the LearnStorm Tracker from the LearnStorm banner on your teacher or coach dashboard. Once you click on the blue button, you should be taken to your class LearnStorm Tracker. We've included a demo for you to see what it's all about. As your students complete assignments on Khan Academy with you assigned to them, the rings on the LearnStorm Tracker will populate and fill up. Once your students have completed a set of number of assignments based on the number of students in your class, their ring will fill up and celebrations will occur. This year, there are a near infinite number of rings, which means there are so many moments for celebration, encouragement, or perhaps friendly competition between a neighboring class. Each ring is 3 times the number of students in your class. Students get super excited regardless of the age, and we've even seen students jump out of their seats in celebration. For a limited time, LearnStorm, we have growth mindset activities that you can also assign to your class to receive credit in your LearnStorm Tracker. All right, enough from me. I am very excited to introduce our panel who will tell us more about growth mindset. All right, today we have Dave Paunesku, founding director of PERTS, a center at Stanford University that helps educators apply insights from the behavioral sciences to create safe and engaging learning environments that foster student motivation and resilience. Annie Brock, a former teacher and author of the Growth Mindset Coach, a month-by-month guide of how to implement mindset in your classroom, and Samala Robinson, a current 4th grade teacher in Independence, Missouri, who has developed many creative ways to help her students learning mindsets. So welcome to our panel. So my first question is for Dave. Can you tell us more of what is growth mindset?
Yeah, so growth mindset is really the belief that our abilities and our intelligence are something that we can grow by applying effort to the right effort appropriately to the right kinds of learning strategies. And it's distinguished usually from a fixed mindset, which is the belief that our abilities and our intelligence are fixed. That they're something like eye color, something that we really can't change about ourselves. Now, it's important to note that growth mindset isn't the belief that everyone's the same or that everyone's equally intelligent or learns the same way. Rather, it's a belief that no matter how smart you are, you can always become smarter by learning from your mistakes and challenging yourself to learn more.
Very good. And I guess this is a question for Annie and Sam. Why is growth mindset important for students?
I think growth mindset is just really essential for students because so many students come to school with us feeling limitations, whether they put them on themselves or they put them on or they've been put on by someone else. And I think when students develop growth mindsets, they start to understand that their possibilities are limitless, that with hard work and effort, they can make great achievements in school. There's a quote in Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, that's a person's true potential is unknown and unknowable, and it's impossible to foresee what can be accomplished with years of passion, toil, and training. And that's like my personal teaching mantra, because I want to enter school every day and just feel like I'm not going to limit any kid. Any kid can achieve anything if they want to put in the work. And you know, when you're a student and you go into the classroom and you look around and there's 20 or 25 other learners, it's really easy to get in that fixed mindset space where you're looking around and contemplating, like, why does this come so quickly to her? Or why is he so great at this? And it's so hard for me. It's easy to tell yourself the story that, oh, they're just blessed with that ability, or, oh, they just have some natural talent or natural affinity for math or art or music or whatever. It's hard to reckon with the truth that effort is what leads to achievement. But we have to care about our students enough not to let them get away with the easy thing, which is just to believe that they're not cut out for it.
Right.
And I just think it's so important to bring growth mindset into our schools and into our classrooms, because when we give kids the tools, the language of growth mindset, the tools to use growth mindset in their learning, they learn how to put in effort, to push hard, to fight, to achieve goals. And their kids who are achieving goals will turn into adults who achieve goals. And we need adults who are tenacious and willing to solve difficult problems. And so that starts in our classrooms.
Yeah.
I think the great thing about growth mindset is it gives every single child hope. It's no longer this mindset of, okay, those are the kids who are smart and I'm never going to be one of them. Everyone is on a journey. Everyone can learn. And Annie kind of touched on this. At the beginning of the year, I described knowledge to my kids as a sphere to help them visualize it. And there's an infinite number of doors on the sphere, and we've all got these keys. And it can be so frustrating to look over and watch your friend put their key in and turn, and the door opens. Yet when you put your key in, it doesn't work. That's not where we stop, though. That's where you get with your teacher, and we are going to figure this out. We're going to figure out how our brain works, and we're going to keep going because you deserve that moment where you put your key in, and all your effort has paid off, and that door finally turns. And the great thing about the growth mindset is embedded within it is goal setting, it's reflection, and we're truly empowering our kids to be lifelong learners, not just fourth grade learners.
Right. So I guess for Annie and for Dave, there's so much out there about growth mindset. What is important for teachers to focus in on when fostering a growth mindset for students?
Yeah, so I think a really great place to start is by laying that foundation, by helping them really understand that the brain is malleable, really helping them understand the neuroscience behind growth mindset. So again, I think that's really just a foundation. So that's a great place to start, and I think the LearnStorm growth mindset activities really do a good job of laying that foundation. But then I think it's really important to go deeper than that too. And I think what teachers can do to do that is to create this growth mindset culture, which is characterized by being really a safe place for students to feel like they can make mistakes and where they can challenge themselves without worrying about how their teacher will see them or how their peers will see them. It's a place where they'll feel like their mistakes will be celebrated as long as they're learning from them, and where growth is prioritized over proficiency. And I think what teachers can do is they can really make it obvious that in their class, the thing that matters most is how much they're learning, and that their relationship with their students isn't one of judge, but rather one of coach. So a lot of the time, students worry that their teacher, they really see their teacher as a judge, someone who's there to evaluate whether they're a good learner or bad learner, whether they're smart or dumb. But when they see their teachers as a judge in that way, it can really get in the way of learning, because it's very hard to be vulnerable if you're really worried about how the person will see you and to ask for help. But in contrast, if a teacher really creates this kind of growth mindset culture and really talks to their students and helps them see them as their coach, as someone who's really there to bring out the best in them and help them grow the most, then that really changes the way students feel about challenging themselves and helps them feel much more confident and comfortable really putting themselves out there and challenging themselves.
I love that.
Yeah, I agree with everything Dave said. And I would also, number one is just teaching kids like what the mindsets are, giving them the understanding of how learning actually happens in their bodies, how their brains work, what equipment we all have. That process of creating connections in our brain is the same for everyone. So just giving them that knowledge is key. And then secondly, giving them challenging work. And that's going to look differently for every kid. Challenging, there's many definitions in a classroom of what challenging work is. But giving them challenging work and then supporting them as they meet the high expectations that you've set for them. In doing that, you're creating a growth mindset culture, because, truly, if the work is easy, the mindset is irrelevant. If kids are just breezing through things. So to foster... to me, a growth mindset classroom looks like lots of chances on your path to mastery, lots of chances to get it right. A teacher who's modeling growth mindset, so talking through the process. talking through your struggles and valuing growth over perfection. And I love how you talked about normalizing mistakes or looking at mistakes as an opportunity to learn. I have a funny story. I was chatting with some Khan Academy ambassadors, and a teacher said that she had taught her second grade class about what growth mindset was, and they're working towards looking at mistakes and failure as just a part of learning. And you teach these things and you tell the kids these things, and you're not sure if it's resonating until it comes back to you in some form. And she said one kiddo who started the year with a little bit of a fixed mindset came in with some homemade signs that said, "This is a mistake-making place," but making was spelled MAKEING. And I know, that's such a good story. I'm like, that's such a great example of what growth mindset looks like. It is trying, it's putting yourself out there, it's being vulnerable, and I can't imagine what kind of amazing classroom that teacher has where a kid internalizes that and then is willing to just show up and put himself out there. So you can foster growth mindset in your classroom in a bunch of different ways. Mm-hmm. But to me, it looks like, what is growth mindset? Giving challenging work, setting high expectations, and then being that support structure for the kids to achieve their goals.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that story. That sounds like a really amazing way to foster learning and sort of the best environment that we want for all of our students, which is so great. Dave, I know that Khan Academy worked with you a lot on these growth mindset activities. Can you give me some highlights of the curriculum?
Yeah, so I mean, it was really fun, first of all, working on that curriculum with the Khan Academy team. I always enjoy that. I think one thing I really appreciate about it is that it really, I think, does a good job of hitting a lot of the main themes that are important for laying that foundation for a growth mindset, and it does it in a really fun and engaging way. In no small part, thanks to Pinky, who's a great character to have accompany you on this ride. It really hits at some of the scientific evidence behind the growth mindset. It really helps students understand how powerful mistakes can be, how they can really be allies in this learning journey if you take time to really reflect on them and really understand what that means, what opportunities you have to learn better and to better develop. It also helps students set ambitious goals. Because if you're not really challenging yourself, then it doesn't matter if you have a growth mindset. If you're just thinking, boy, I sure could grow, but if you're not doing things that actually challenge you to grow, you won't. And so I think it helps students set those goals and really understand why doing that is important. And then I think last but not least, it also really, when you're really doing that, when you're going for those ambitious goals and pushing yourself, you're going to struggle, and you're going to get frustrated sometimes. And there's also really good advice there for students and for teachers around how to deal with those inevitable struggles that come up when you're really pushing yourself.
Right, exactly. And I guess, Sam, just for those teachers who are watching who are like, I need some practical applications of how to do this and like what's happening now. You've participated in LearnStorm for a couple years now. What are you looking forward to for LearnStorm and the growth mindset activities for this year?
Well, I really like that there's been a bit of a shift in the LearnStorm in that now they are aligned to elementary, middle school, and high school. And I think that helps a tremendous amount. We spend so much time at the beginning of the year doing these direct lessons where we're talking about what's actually happening in your brain and what's happening in your body when you become stressed and dealing with the frustrations and everything. And we do all these different activities, and then just at the perfect time, LearnStorm comes in, and the kids get to hear that information in a different way and interact with it in a different way. And although the growth mindset videos and articles are phenomenal, for me personally, the best part about LearnStorm is what happens right after that, when the application piece comes in, when we're doing math or coding or grammar or whatever we're working on, and they go to do their assignments, and there's such a presence of class synergy, because if you want to see my class suddenly get silent and excited, my class manager, Maddie, she'll go up to the board and they watch her like on pins and needles because they know she's getting ready to push check progress. And they want those rings to fill so badly. And they know that every single one of them contributed to that happening. And it, I love though that Dave mentioned dealing with the frustrations. I had a student who she was like, just tell me how to do this one. But she didn't want to do it on her own. And they know that I won't do that. Like, I'm here for you. Let's talk through it. Don't tell me what you don't know. Tell me what you do know. And working through it. And she left that day totally frustrated and came back the next day, could not wait to grab her Chromebook, ran over, said she'd figured it out, popped it in, and it was correct. And she was the class hero in that moment. And I asked her, I said, how do you feel right now? And she's like, oh, I feel so good. I did this. I said, you wouldn't have felt like that if I had just told you the answer. And so taking those little moments to let your kids feel that intrinsic motivation, I think is really, really powerful in the classroom. And LearnStorm kind of gives us that framework at the beginning to really help establish that that's what this is like in this classroom.
Right. That's amazing. And can I just ask, like, as an aside, as a teacher, what is that moment like for you to experience, to see your students kind of learn and experience that?
You know, there's a gamut of emotions when you watch your kiddos learn, because you feel frustrations along with them, and you feel the discouragement too. I have a young man who really has a lot of intense emotions, you know, that he's learning to deal with, as a lot of our kids do. And he was so frustrated because on an assignment that we had did, he got 1 out of 7. And he was just so down. And I was like, buddy, your neurons found a path. You got 1, you know. And he was like, what? You know, not very impressed with that response. And I said, you know, we're going to do this again. I want to see if your neurons can find another path and get 2. And he got 3. And then he said, go away. All right. So I went to help other kiddos. And a little bit later, he came to me and he said, I need you to close your eyes. And he led me back to his computer, and I opened my eyes, and he had tears running down his face, and it said 7 out of 7. And in that moment, like, that's why we're teachers, and that's why we do what we do, and that's what we strive for. You know, for him to feel that moment and know he did it on his own, and he gave his brain the time to learn and allow his neurons to find those pathways. And it's the other kids see that too, and it empowers them as much. Like, I can do this too. Go away, I got it. You know. So there's a litany of emotions you feel as a teacher as well. You know, you feel the frustrations with them. But there's nothing better than the kid that they've got it.
I love that. It definitely seems, just from hearing you all talk and kind of our earlier conversations, that there's definitely a certain sort of bravery that has to happen on both the side of the teacher and the student when participating in these growth mindset activities, right? You have to trust that your students can do this and that they can learn and that it's okay to watch them struggle a little bit. And then on the other end, for these students, it's okay for them to struggle and to work through things. And I think that's such a beautiful lesson, not just in class, but just in general. So this question we have from Helen in Utah, and I will throw this question to Sam and perhaps everyone. With the demands on the time of day, where do you fit in a growth mindset activities, and what is your favorite activity?
So at the beginning of the year, you do have to make time to do direct lessons. 15, 25 minutes a day. It can involve a mentor text, such as Ish or Beautiful Oops or, you know, The Great Mistake, any of those. Or it can be, my kids really like, I actually will show them scans of brains, and we will talk about what's happening. They learn about the neurons, they learn about the parts of the brain and what they're responsible for. And it's a really powerful moment for them because a lot of kids come and they villainize themselves. I'm not smart. Whereas this gives them, okay, no, this is what's happening in my brain, and I can grow from this. And so we start with that platform, and that does take direct instruction time at the very beginning of the school year, probably a couple weeks. And we try to do a lot of activities along with them. We will read Ish and then paint on a canvas. We make calm down jars where the kids will put glitter and beads in a jar and their favorite food coloring and talk about calming our brain. You know, we talk about how our body releases stress, cortisol when we're stressed and we can't think. And so we do a lot of these activities at the beginning and really devote the time to it. And I know we don't have a lot of time as teachers, but the payoff is tenfold. From there, it really is about embedding it into just how you speak to your kids and how you ask them to speak, not only to you, but mostly to themselves. My students have on their desk a picture of themselves holding a sign they created that says yet. And at the beginning, I got to point to that picture a lot because they self-doubt and they talk so negatively to themselves. And so I can't do this, and I'll point to it and they say, I can't do it yet. And then we work really hard to say, okay, we can sit here all day talking about the things we don't know. Let's start on this problem. What do you know? You know, and it's not about something you do separate from that point. It's how you empower your students and how you talk to them and how you expect them to talk to themselves. And that's really the rest of the year, it's not something extra anymore. It's just the environment of your classroom, your vocabulary, their vocabulary. And I tell them, I will never let anybody be mean to you, especially yourself. And I think a lot of kiddos, they're the meanest to themselves.
Right.
I agree with everything that Sam said. I think, like, in terms of like concrete activities that you can do, definitely direct instruction for teaching what is growth mindset and giving them that vocabulary, those tools, understanding how their brains work. That requires some direct instruction up front. But totally agree that if you do that little front loading piece and then you work really hard to embed growth mindset into your culture, it's not necessarily a kind of activity, but it's for me, I think like any type of lesson or activity that requires iterative thinking or trial and error is going to allow them to experience a little struggle, experience like testing something, it works, it doesn't work, and going back to the drawing board. Any type of like collaborative activities are really great for working with one another. Project-based learning, where there's not necessarily a right answer, and just coming up with solutions. The breakouts, I think, are really great for getting or any opportunity for the kids to have some productive struggle when you create a challenge that may be a little just beyond their capabilities and let them grapple with that a little bit. Those are all good opportunities, but there should just be things that we're doing every day, that there's always chances. And I always think that the important piece is that we debrief afterwards and we talk about what was your learning like? What did it feel like? How did you push through the difficult parts? And I think as a learner, in my experience as a learner anyway, those most difficult experiences are the most memorable experiences. They're the ones that I walk away like, I did it, I got through that, even if it ended up being, a C in algebra. To me, when it felt like there was no hope, walking out of there and knowing that I had got it or had grown, that's a really rewarding experience. So just embedding it in the culture of your classroom and everything you do is so important.
Right. What, Dave, anything to add?
No, I think that's great.
Okay, sure. I was going to say one of my favorite things about what you both said is just the idea that we can kind of have this generation of students who don't have to unlearn these kind of bad kind of mentalities about themselves and internalize that, and like what kind of young people can we unleash on the world if they were just super positive about what they could accomplish. It's so amazing. I love it. All right. Scarlett from Georgia asks, what is the best way to get students excited about growth mindset? I will throw this one to Annie and Sam.
So I think to get kids excited is number one, just I think Sam was saying earlier, I'm going to steal what we were talking about, but Sam was saying earlier that kids come to you already feeling excited about their potential, or if they come to you feeling down about their potential, if you could teach them about how their brains work and how, with effort and hard work, they can make accomplishments and make gains in their learning, that gets them excited, especially when they see progress. It doesn't necessarily have to be, like a party to get excited about it, but I think we all are excited about our own potential. And when you bring that passion into the classroom and you're developing relationships with the kids and growing those bonds and showing them that you believe in their capabilities, teaching them how to believe in themselves and how to reframe and refocus, how to be mindful about how they learn best and apply those strategies and give them opportunities to struggle and come out on top, I think kids get excited about learning and about their own possibilities and capabilities.
Yeah, I think so. And, as adults, sometimes we haven't put ourselves in situations in a while often that kids are in every day, where we are struggling and we don't get something and we want to get it. If you've forgotten what that feels like, I encourage you to go take a class or do something outside the normal, because there's not a worse feeling in the world than seeing everybody else get it and you giving it your all but you don't get it. And so growth mindset empowers kids to know that that's not the period, that's not the end of the story.
Right, right, exactly.
That doesn't define me. This is a part of my journey, and watch me go.
Right.
I think modeling and sharing, there's lots of teachers have success with sharing stories of like famous failures. So like Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team, or Harry Potter was rejected 10 times, or Abraham Lincoln lost his first bid for the Illinois House of Representatives, or whatever it is. Like sharing those stories and letting kids know like nobody has like a seamless upward trajectory in life. We all have this kind of rocky path that we take. There's ups and downs, and the journey towards success it requires a lot of that. I think that gets them excited too.
Exactly.
I think fail with your kids. You know, a lot of schools now are doing Failure Fridays, and I love Failure Fridays. You know, the teacher too. We're all learners, and we're going to try something completely out of the norm for 15 minutes. We're going to juggle. We're going to try to cook something. We're going to paint. We're going to try to just do all sorts of various things that might be outside the norm, and demonstrate to them that you can't do it right away either. And you know what? Congratulations, we failed. Now what?
Right. I love that part, like the now what part. That's very, very encouraging. I'm going to remember that when I fail at many of the things I try. Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know that some teachers will actually make a point to intentionally make mistakes in front of their students so that they can really model for them, you know, when their students call them out and say, hey, that was a mistake, they can model for them the kind of really adaptive response to that and say, oh yeah, you're right, that was a mistake. Help me fix that. You know, what did I do wrong? And that can really be this kind of magical time when teachers can be vulnerable for their students and really model that it's okay to make mistakes and that the important thing is to really learn from each other and learn from those mistakes.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very true because, you know, I think a lot of teachers feel that they have to kind of be kind of perfect and kind of the front of the classroom, and they want to, you know, kind of project this image. And I think students learn so much better when they have someone to relate to, and they're like, oh, I see someone that I can kind of grow towards, which is really great. I have a question from Sarah from Bonnie Bray, Virginia. Sarah asks, how can I best support a learner with disabilities like ADHD, Asperger's, and so on, with concrete examples, scaffolding, and growth mindset? That's a really great question. I'm going to throw it up to the whole panel to answer that question.
I think any kid can understand like the basics of how we learn and what growth mindset is. I mean, I've seen as young as preschoolers like understand that concept of what growth mindset is and how learning happens in our bodies. And once you start with that foundation, I think it's just really important to let kids know that learning is a journey, and the journey is different for every person. Growth mindset is not trying hard and winning every time. Like, people sometimes have that idea that that's what it is. Being successful and and getting success or achievements look different for every person. For some people, I got an email from a lady after I wrote a book on growth mindset, and she said, well, I have a friend and she struggles with a learning disability, and it took her 4 times to pass algebra class. And so growth mindset doesn't work. And I said, well, she passed it. It just took 4 times. Right. And really, it's about us changing what our definition of success looks like. Because for a lot of teachers, it's just getting an A+ is success. For a lot of parents, getting an A equals success. But we have to look at it in a different way. Sometimes it's starting with a 32% and ending up with a 75%. Getting 1 right and then keep working at it until you get 7 right. It's a process, and I think no matter, my own son struggles with reading, and we talk about what the way that you learn reading is going to be different from other people. It might take you a little longer to get it. You might have to employ some different strategies that other kids don't have to do, but you'll get there. It's just that this is your road, this is your path, and you have to embrace that.
Right. Dave, anything to add?
That's
Okay.
great.
No,
Yeah.
Annie, sorry.
I think I love everything she said. And, one of my students, after a lesson one day, made a comment, Daisy. She said that even if she redefined the way she was thinking, and she goes, I'm not going to think about losing the same way anymore. I said, tell me more about that. What do you mean? She goes, if I lose, but I look at why do I think I lost and what can I do better next time? She goes, I'm going to start counting that half winning. I thought that was wonderful. In my class, we've kind of adopted that. And I love what you said about we kind of need to redefine success. It may not look like, okay, it's 100% on the spelling test every time. It's about growth for every child. Where are you and where do you want to be? It's about putting that goal setting and that reflection in, and every child moving forward, no matter where they are.
That's fantastic. Great. We have a question from Michelle from Juniper, California. What is the best way to get parents on board with the idea of growth mindset? And this is such a really important question because I think growth mindset can look very different for many parents who may not have seen it before, may not have heard it before. So how do you get them on board for this?
Well, I can start with one thought. So I think exactly, I think for a lot of parents, it really is very different than what they're used to, and they might not understand, is my kid's teacher just making up all this new stuff that looks totally different than what I'm used to? And it might be very alien. And so I think a good place to start might be really with just explaining all the research behind growth mindset. I mean, not only that this is true about our brains, but also what an empowering impact that has on kids' motivation, how kids, once they learn to internalize the growth mindset, how they really end up being much more likely to challenge themselves, to learn from their mistakes, to take more challenging classes, to do well in class, right? So it's so at the end of the day, it's really an evidence-based approach to building students' motivation and ultimately their achievement too. So I think even parents who are really, sticklers for, at the end of the day, I want my kid to learn the most. Well, if that's what you want, then this is actually how you get there. It's by removing the fear from learning that might otherwise constrain them. And growth mindset and growth mindset cultures can really just do such a fantastic job of helping kids really feel empowered and unleashed to learn at their best and to really see themselves growing. Rather than being afraid of doing poorly. So I think that's like a great starting point, and then I know these two have some great follow-up suggestions.
We have to look at home as an extension of the classroom and vice versa, and so I think just giving parents the tools to understand what growth mindset is, why we do it. It's an evidence-based approach. And then teaching them strategies to help them. And a lot of times that comes down to just talking to your kids. So, there's kind of the old cliche, like you ask your kid, what'd you do today? Or what'd you do today at school? Nothing. How was it? Fine.
Yeah.
You always hear that. But if parents can be intentional about how they talk to their kids after school, I always ask my kids and we have a running thing. So every day after school, I say best, worst, and weirdest. And so they have to tell me their best thing, their worst thing, and their weirdest thing, which ends up with a lot of funny stories. But it also gives us an opportunity to kind of dive into, okay, so something didn't go very well. Why not?
Right.
What was the catalyst for that not going well? Or if something went great, what kind of strategies did you use to pull that off? I mean, how did you prepare? How did you study? How did you handle that tricky situation on the playground or whatever? But talking to your kids instead of just, good job, A on the test, ask them, like how did you prepare for this? What kind of learning went into this? And likewise, if they didn't do so well, let's talk about what happened.
Right.
And so really helping parents build that communication with their kids about strategies for learning and what works and what doesn't, and having them draw the link between effort and achievement is really important, so the kids are hearing it everywhere they go.
Very good. Best, worst, weirdest. I love that. Super cool. Annie? I'm sorry. Sam?
Sorry. And I think the bottom line, too, when it comes to parents is they are sending us the most precious gift they have. And there is nothing worse of a feeling than being a parent and seeing your child struggle in reading or struggle in math, and you want so badly to fix it for them, but you don't know how. And so sometimes when these parents come to us and they're frustrated and they just want it fixed, they're coming from a place of love. And we have to train them too, because they'll come upset. My child is not a good reader, or my child's not good at math. Well, now and yet.
Right.
So what are we going to do? There really is, if you really want to see the kids just go far, a strong partnership between the kiddo, the teacher, and the parent, you've got a big support system there to really hold up. And then it comes down to what Annie was talking about earlier. All right, we've got our support system holding you. Now let's go for some effort.
Right, exactly. It sounds like a really strong kind of foundation when you have that. That sounds beautiful. We have a question from Alyssa B. How would you recommend facilitating and encouraging other faculty to promote growth mindset? So this is a good question of what do you do kind of in your actual school environment?
I think being transparent and being vulnerable. Teachers work really hard, and we do not have a lot of time in the day. And it's you know, sometimes it's really easy to hear something and think that's just another thing. So I think by being transparent and allowing people to come into your classroom or see the fruits of your kids' labor, let your kids lead things. You know, let your kids be the ones who go out and talk about things, because that's where the power lies, and that's where you show that these mountains are being moved. And then I think also being vulnerable, being able to go to a meeting and say, guys, I'm really working on growth mindset, but I really feel like I personally am failing here. I need some help. And having those open discussions, I think, encourage more people. You know, we talk about our students feeling safe, but it's the same thing with the staff. The teachers, we've got to feel safe too, to kind of embark on this, because it's uncomfortable at the beginning, and it's a new way of thinking and speaking, and there's a big power shift from the teacher to the kiddos, and that's nerve-wracking at the beginning. But it's such a positive power shift. It's scared to take at the beginning.
I think getting administrators in on it too. I really believe that just like people approach things with a growth and fixed mindset, that a school has organizations have a growth or fixed mindset, and a lot of times you don't have to look further than like the handbook to figure out like what are we valuing here? Are we valuing growth? Are we valuing perfection? And so getting a good gauge on what is being valued and how are only the kids who are getting on the A honor roll, are they the ones that are being celebrated? Do we have ways of celebrating kids who are making less or making incremental steps toward growth? Like, do we celebrate that at all in our culture? And so as a teacher, I think you have an opportunity to speak to your admins and say, we need to refocus and celebrate. And like Dave said, this is evidence, this is research based. There's a strong body of research going back, 30 or 40 years that supports this as a valuable learning intervention, and just sharing that and being, being an advocate for it in your school, I think is key to changing the culture of the entire school.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is just that, I mean, I think when I've talked to teachers who have kind of catalyzed these kinds of cultural transformations at their schools, I think a lot of the times it's really happened with just a handful of teachers who really started doing it, and they really started modeling it and going and talking to other teachers about it, and just, it took some time. It wasn't like we're all going to do growth mindset all at once. I think in my experience that usually doesn't work very well. It's usually more that you kind of start around this kind of core crystal group of teachers, and then it kind of branches off from there. And as other teachers can see the kind of amazing things that can happen, then they start to say, hey, maybe that could work in my class. Actually, I'd like to have my kids be that inspired or that motivated.
That's interesting. Actually, I'm very curious to know, for Sam, what made you want to try out these growth mindset activities? Like, what was the catalyst for that?
It actually stemmed, in the beginning, I noticed that my kiddos were coming without tools. And at the time I was in 5th grade, and I had to send, my babies off to middle school. And I wanted them as empowered and with as many strategies as they could possibly have before they went, because middle school can be really difficult years. And so I started looking at things like their perseverance, how do they speak to one another, how do they advocate for themselves when they need something. And we started little by little looking at things like that, and I started really kind of trying to research and find things to support that. And it's funny, we watch, at the beginning of the year, I show my kids a video of a really famous quantum theorist who, he's melded science and math, and he's been working on the same equation now for 12 years. And I promise my kids, I will never make you work on an equation for 12 years. But if he can do 12 years, we can do 20 minutes. And we started trying to, build that stamina. And then it just kind of grew from there, and it was kind of the perfect timing. Annie's book came out, Carol Dweck's book is coming out, PERTS is really on the stage now, LearnStorm's out, and it was just, it feels like a lot of us were seeking this. If you look at the manifestation of what has really come to the surface. So I think a lot of teachers at the same time really were feeling the same need.
That's beautiful. All right. I'm glad we can help fill that need. That makes me feel good. Leanne Morgan from Ontario asked, Are there words and phrases that foster growth that I can include in my student conversations? I think actually all of you have touched upon this idea of vocabulary. So let's see if we can try to touch on that.
I'm a firm advocate of the power of yet. Anytime they say any kind of negative talk, I'll point to them, yet, and then they have to say it, and then we're big on, all right, now what? Or, great, what do you need? We practice a lot at the beginning of the year building a toolkit of, okay, I'm stuck now, so what? All right, I can ask for more time. I can ask to hear it in a different way. I can ask the teacher to rephrase it. I can ask, we talk about what are the different things I can do to advocate for myself. Because I might not always be within these four walls when I encounter a problem, and I need to have those intrinsic skills. And so having that vocabulary ready for your kids, and then on the teacher's part, really trying to back away from good job, that's right.
Right.
Or leave it to the class. Mathematicians, what do you think? This mathematician has proposed this idea. Thoughts? And at the beginning, they just stare at you like, is it right or wrong? But they start to learn, and it's so powerful. And it is so hard as a teacher, though, when somebody throws something wildly incorrect out there. But the cool thing is there's a lot of grace in that too, because when the kids start debating it and discussing it, we talk about, do you have the right to change your mind? And the kid will say, I'd like to change my answer. And I think there's so much power in how kids speak to each other and speak to themselves. And then it's hard for the teacher, but kind of backing up and just giving those launch points, those launching questions.
Right.
And then you're crowd control at that point.
Right. Very good.
I think just being mindful of like person praise versus process praise. So if we say to a kid who does really well, like, oh, you're so smart, they equate doing well with being smart, that it's some inherent inborn thing that they have that they can do well. And then when inevitably they hit a setback, which they will, and they don't do so well, then all of a sudden it's like a question of like, well, if I'm not smart, then who am I? And so just being mindful of praising effort and the process that they took to learn, like, that was a really great strategy you used, or I like how you solved that problem, or if they breezed through something, maybe that wasn't challenging enough, let's try to find something else. So being mindful of that. Being more robust with your feedback. I think we like to use stickers and say good job a lot. In the book I wrote, we call it, I read it somewhere else, but they call it Paula praise. So like on American Idol, if you think back to American Idol, like the first with Simon and Paula and Randy, Paula would always say good job. She didn't have, and Simon was a lot meaner, but he was much more specific. And so you don't want to be like that, but definitely be specific in the feedback that you're giving. And I would rather have less feedback that's more specific than generalized praise that is really meaningless. So you want to be mindful of that. And then, I just thinking about that, I used to say, come on, you can do this. It's so easy. And that was something I said as a teacher, and I look back and think, oh my gosh, you know what? That wasn't easy for that person. Right. It was easy for me, or I thought it was easy, but it wasn't easy for that person. And so what I was saying was actually not helping. It was counterproductive. Right. And I thought I was being helpful. And so just like really being mindful of what you're saying and how that affects the student that you're working with is really important.
Yeah, I really love all those points. I guess just from a growth mindset standpoint, I think the kinds of language we use, the kinds of words we use can be really important, and there are. So, for example, are you referring to things as, for example, we can talk about building skills, like really calling out when you're doing something, like why are you doing it? Oh, you're building your skills. You're becoming a mathematician, or you're building your writing skills right now, or you're becoming a better writer, or we're really focusing students on those processes and kind of how the fact that they're learning while they're doing. So kind of taking the focus off of the end result and really focusing it on the thing that the students can actually control for themselves, which is the process that they're doing, and really reminding them and kind of debriefing with them so that they really understand what it is that they're doing, and that all this effort they're doing, it's not just going into a grade, it's going into them leveling up, them becoming a writer, them becoming a mathematician, or a scientist, or whatever that may be, a great civic thinker. Whatever that may be, they're really developing those skills and really making sure to call out the that learning is a process that they're enacting in your class.
Right. So not just like work for the sake of work, but work for the sake of
Growth.
Of growth and betterment. I love that. All right. So we're going to wrap up. I'm going to actually throw you a bit of a curveball and ask you a final question, but with a challenge. So what is one last piece of advice for teachers for fostering growth mindset that you would give this year, if you can give it in 10 words or less? Oh, I know. All right, I'm going to start with Dave.
Have a growth mindset about building a growth mindset culture. Was that too long?
I think I did that right.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. Annie, one last piece of advice for teachers.
I would say model your growth and fixed mindsets and normalize mistakes in your classroom.
Well done, well done.
Thank
I
you.
like it. All right, Sam, your last turn.
Okay. Be vulnerable. Be a champion for your kids and model.
I love that. That was very good and all very tweetable. Very great. So I want to thank Dave and Annie and Sam for joining us today. I learned something and I hope that you all did too. I want to remind everyone that there's still time to sign up. So if you haven't signed up, please sign up like right now, today, but definitely by the end of October. And if you keep on tagging your classroom celebrations with hashtag LearnStorm on Twitter and Facebook, we really love seeing in the office. So please keep on doing that. Welcome back to the school years, teachers. Thank you and goodbye.